Hello and welcome to the North 100, a Canadian Highlander set review podcast, apparently. I'm Serge. Joining me today, I have a Wheeler.
Hello.
And, well, we're here to talk about Streets of New Capenna, which is a totally cool set, and can't wait to share our thoughts. But first, business. A reminder that this podcast is brought to you by you with your support over at the Patreon, over at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. Streets of New Capenna is a little bit of a different set. It's a 3-color wedge set, which we haven't had in a while. And this has caused a very different distribution of cards than the normal set reviews that we've done in a very long time. And so what's going to happen today, before people start talking to us about cards being out of order or anything missing, we are covering everything today other than gold cards. And then gold cards are going to have their own episode. So when we get to lands and artifacts, I don't want to see any comments of people being like, but where are the gold cards? Because they're out of order. I assure you, that's actually going to be the majority of what we talk about. And this is a Canadian Highlander set review. We're only going to be talking about the cards that are relevant to the format or that we think will make a good conversation. But as always, if there's a card that we don't talk about and you think it's interesting and worthy of some discussion, let us know down in the comments and we can hit it in part 2. Wheeler.
And not to stifle engagement in our YouTube comment section, because by all means, comment about anything. What's your favorite food? Your favorite drink? Do you like horses? Anything. But if it's about a card that we may have skipped, also ask yourself, how does this stand against some of the best cards of all time? That's it. Yeah, that's it.
It's very important context, because it's what our format is, right? But let's just jump right into it and talk about Elspeth. This is the 4th or 5th Elspeth?
Are we counting Planeswalker deck Elspeths?
Yeah.
Then yeah, the 4th or the 5th, one or the other.
Well, Elspeth Resplendent is a 5-mana, 5 loyalty Elspeth Planeswalker for 3 white. +1 ability, choose up to 1 target creature. Put a +1/+1 counter and a counter from among flying, first strike, lifelink, or vigilance on it. Now, importantly, counter. The creature gets that forever, which is quite cool. -3, look at the top 7 cards of your library. You may put a permanent with mana value 3 or less from among them onto the battlefield with a shield counter, and put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. And -7, the ultimate, create 5 3/3 white angel creature tokens with flying. Not even Sarah Angels. Not even the 4/4s. I mean, it's still 15 power and toughness. But there's the flavor. There's the flavor about it.
Dice to Slagstorm is irrelevant. Not Slagstorm proper, but dying to Anger the Gods is a little embarrassing if you're an angel, isn't it?
How bad would that feel? You're like, aha, I've ultimated Elspeth. My undefeatable angel army is here to get you. You're like, Slagstorm, Anger. Yeah. Any of these 3 damage ones? I don't guess. So I potentially unpopular opinion. I don't know if Elspeth does quite enough in our format, but I think there is one line of text that, to me, makes the difference between why I would play it and why I wouldn't play it, and that's the word lifelink. Everything else is good, but I think lifelink is the difference between including this versus not including this, because the counter and the ability to just grow that threat is pretty dang good. Otherwise, it's pretty expensive for what you get.
Flying's pretty good too.
Oh yeah.
It's a 5-mana mythic rare that if your opponent gets to untap with it, you're probably losing the game. Or if you get to play it and use its abilities twice in a profitable fashion, you're probably winning the game.
Yeah.
But you could say that about a lot of cards nowadays.
Yeah.
And so it's like, and in a deck with Thalias, most likely, is this really what you want to be doing? Like, if you include it in your deck and get to cast it and use it, you're probably winning. But that requires you to include it into your deck, which make sure you brought your Palace Jailer, your Restoration Angel. It's like cards like this, you kind of got to go through that. I'm about to get on a trip, about to go drive to the airport. You got to do your last second check to see you got all your 4 drops. And then if you have all those and you still want more, sure, Elspeth is fine.
The weird part for me is the -3 ability.
Hmm.
which is if you're playing a deck that wants a 5-drop, how many 3-drops are you going to hit that are really going to be that impactful?
Yeah. It's nice that you can hit planeswalkers.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, your best bet is probably hitting stuff like Oblivion Ring, which you're probably not playing, right?
Hmm.
Like your impactful 3-drops, probably. I mean, your punchiest cards are probably 4 and 5s, and your 3s are probably utility stuff. So it really reduces how much impact you're going to get off that ability. So I feel like if you're playing this onto an empty board and hoping to hit something with a -3, not great. Whereas if you're already playing it on a board where the +1 is going to impact the creature, this is why I go back to that life link. That life swing is going to help, but I don't know.
Yeah, let's put it this way. In a deck with a lot of mana and white mana, I would rather play like an Exalted Angel, you
Oh
know?
yeah.
If I'm playing like a cute big card that will actually just kill specific archetypes entirely and then just kind of be generally good but expensive, there are just better options, you know? Even Baneslayer.
Oh, yeah, I was about to say, tip of my tongue. Shall we move on?
Yes, let's extract from this extract ourselves from this card. You know what? I fumbled it, so it's okay. Let's just talk about this card. Extraction Specialist, 2 and a white for a 3/2 human rogue with life link. When Extraction Specialist enters the battlefield, return target creature card with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. That creature can't attack or block for as long as you control Extraction Specialist. Serge, you know what isn't attacking or blocking?
Sack outlets?
Well, okay, you're technically correct, which is the best kind of correct. So I guess, yeah, you get points because Safi Eric's daughter.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I feel there's a thing that pops up anytime there's a new set where I like have to stop myself from including too many Sandy B cards because they never make the cut. But this one actually loops.
This one's
Yeah,
absurd.
it's very good. It's really
Yeah, this has got to
good.
be one of the best Sandy B cards they've printed in a very long time.
Yeah, it lets you create some neat little loops as well. Importantly, there's a couple of cards, but this is the big one from the set that does it. It lets you create Protean Hulk piles that don't require you to have like a Karmic Guide or a Revelark,
Mm.
a 5-mana reanimator, which is usually pretty important. And often the only way to get around it previously was playing some extra stinky cards like Body Snatcher or
Yeah.
Body Double. But yeah. And then like the other than doing Sandy B stuff, this just has Ancient Tomb mana, hits for 3, gains you 3 life, and can also get back Mother of Ruins.
Or Stoneforge Mystic,
Yep,
right?
Stoneforge.
Any of your hate bears. Honestly, this getting back Thalia in a combo matchup, they answer it once and you just get it back. Like, Thalia doesn't need the swing to do her job.
Yeah, get back a Kasali Pride Mage that
Ooh.
blew up an important artifact and attack with Exalted. Like, this is just a very solid magic card that is way more flexible than it looks. Way more flexible. Very good. Very good card.
All right, next up we have Giada, Font of Hope. This is a 2-mana 2/2 legendary angel for 1 and a white. Has flying and vigilance. And at this point, I'd already be playing this card, but it has more text. Each other angel you control enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it for each angel you already control. And you can tap, and it adds white mana. Spend this mana only to cast an angel spell. I like this a lot.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of people will look at this and immediately go to like Angel Tribal. And I think if you're only evaluating the card in that lens, you are limiting yourself to realizing just how strong this is. There are already a lot of incidental angels that you might play. Resto Angel stands out in this format a lot. And this might give you the opportunity to make a Resplendent Angel, maybe include one or you don't necessarily have to, but you're going to get value out of these like mid-range, really top-tier threats you're already playing. And this
Mhm.
card does enough by itself. 2-mana 2/2 with flying and vigilance.
Yeah, it doesn't take much to get me to play an on cost flyer, right?
Right?
And like This one has vigilance, which is annoying, and then this added text, which, first off, applauding you, incidental angel is very funny. That's just it's a very funny sentence to say. Tickled me the right way. Secondly, I'd like you to, I'm going to name some cards really quickly. Tell me if I say a bad card. Sarah Avenger, Resplendent Angel, Resplendent Marshal, Righteous Valkyrie, Restoration Angel, Angel of Jubilation, Glorious Protector, Gisela, Linvala. I swear to God, I'm not listing off the women from Mambo number 5. I'm listing these are angels that have shown up in our format in just decks, like green, white, mid-range, mono white, medium white. You know, we just play a lot of angels because they're good. Yeah. And so you don't need the incidental angels, but when it happens, and it'll feel so clean.
Yeah. Dude, Resto coming down as a 4/5? Pardon?
Oh, Christ.
You're like, attack with Cleek. You're like, you fool!
That's too big. That's too big. Speaking of angels, it sounds like we've been sipping from that Halo fountain. 2 and a white, it's an artifact with 3 abilities. Pay 1 white, tap, untap a tapped creature you control, create a 1/1 green and white citizen token, pay 2 white, tap, and untap 2 tapped creatures you control, draw a card, and then pay 5 white, tap, untap 15 tapped creatures you control. You win the game. Serge, why do you like Halo Fountain?
Anytime you have an artifact with an untap ability, there's got to be some, pardon the pun, some untapped potential to do something kind of busted with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's just a history of so many artifacts with something in there. So, like, there's got to be combo potential somewhere to go infinite with this, with mana. We have so many creatures in the format that tap to add multiple mana. There's got to be something, right?
Yeah. Yes. There, you can loop with this card.
Yeah.
And you can also just win the game with this card. It's kind of like a weird Staff of Domination.
The bottom line is a little weird to me. I bet you if somebody played with this long enough, it'll come up. I don't think that's the line of text you're as interested in.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm just saying, for the record, I agree with you.
Yeah,
it's just one of those. It's just the kind of thing of like, well, in decks that go infinite, having an additional button that says you win the game is pretty neat, you know?
Of course.
Like,
yeah.
The fact that it's attached to it, much like how Staff of Domination can draw your deck, which is effectively winning the game. This one just says like, no, I'm good. You just win, which is nice. But yeah, I agree. It's the first 2 abilities are the real, like, this is what you are looking at, you know?
I don't have an immediate home for it. I'm imagining it's one of those green-white mid-range hybrid combo creature decks with, you know, like Vizier combo or Lyra putting -1/-1 counters to untap a mana thing over and over sort of thing. I don't see exactly what it is. And shout out to YouTube engagement. If you got a combo with Halo Fountain, let us know. I just figure there's enough going on in this card. There's got to be something there, even if I don't see it quite yet. Anything else you want to add, or shall we move on?
No, let's go to some comfort food.
Next up, we have Inspiring Overseer, which is a common. 3 mana 2/1 Angel Cleric for 2 and a white, has flying, and when it enters the battlefield, gain a life and draw a card. And this is a strictly better version of, oh man, what was the dwarven, what's his face?
Priest of Forgotten Lore.
Priest of Forgotten Lore, right? Like, what an upgrade. Also, incidentally, an angel, Winky Face Giada. I think this card does a lot of very good stuff. This has got a combo in Aloran, doesn't it?
Yes. I mean, you can't return it with Cavern Harpy proper.
Oh, okay. I guess the stat line isn't right there, right?
Yeah, but like we could figure out a way to return another creature and gain infinite life off of this and maybe draw our deck.
This is easy to cast. It has a great body line. The fact that it gains you life and draws a card makes it... This just fits in a lot of things.
Yeah. There are a lot of scary things that can come onto the board off of like a Llanowar Elf or a Mox draw. And like, this is not necessarily a scary card, but if this hits the table early, it's still very annoying.
Yeah.
Like if my Death and Taxes player Like if the Death and Taxes opponent goes like turn 1 Isamaru, and this is what they play off of like a Mox Pearl or like an Ancient Tomb draw, like I'm still kind of peeved, right? I'm still just like, all right, well, you got a flying creature that's going to hold this GT well, and it's already drawn you a card, and okay.
The draw card is so significant here because even if they deal with it, it's already replaced itself. It's all upside at that point.
Yeah, and it's a cleric and an angel. Wow. Cleric Clan Ironworks, or sorry, I think I called it Cleric Clan Friarworks, which is like the cleric like sack outlet combo deck that kind of operates like KCI. It's back on the menu. We have another infinite loop. Get to draw our deck and gain some life. Speaking of decks that are miserable to even think about, Patch Up. 2 and a white, it's a sorcery. Return up to 3 target creature cards with total mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Ooh, that's the stuff. Serge, do you remember that Friday Night Paper Fight where I was playing a mono white deck?
Yeah, I've been trying so hard to forget about it. Yeah.
Unfortunately, they print 4 sets a year, and every time they do, we get at least one card where I get to bring it up. And this is going to be that card, I guess. Just like 3 mana, return these 1-drops, or return a 2-drop plus a 1-drop is great. It's kind of like Proclamation of Rebirth, kind of like Call of the Death Dweller, the one from Ikoria. The one from Ikoria only let you return 2 creatures, total mana value 3, or up to 2, and it put counters on it. But also, like, that's a black reanimation spell at 3, which, like, black has, reanimate. And so the fact that this is mono white specifically, and that you can mix and match, you can get just a 3-drop, so it's like a Savine's Reclamation, or you can get 3 1s, a 2 and a 1. Like that is great. You can get back a 0 and a 3 if you really feel feisty. I wouldn't recommend it, but you could. Yeah, this is just such a good role player and a redundancy for those decks. And I'd be curious to see if it pops up in some D&T style decks too, because yeah, it feels like it's got to be a lot better than it looks too, Hey,
Wheeler, we need to have a little chat.
Oh, Jesus, not again.
About a little chat. Oh, what a segue. He's so good at his job.
Wow.
A little chat is a 2-mana instant for 1 and a blue with Casualty 1. Casualty is the new mechanic that says, as you cast this spell, you may sacrifice a creature with power 1 or greater. When you do, copy the spell. And it says, look at the top 2 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand and the other on the bottom of your library. 2 mana draw 2 is kind of cool. I kind of wish this wasn't a blue card, though.
Yeah, it's just kind of, the fact that Highlander, right, if you play this in like a blue-red deck, or like maybe like a Jeskai tokens kind of deck, you can get it going. But also, we have so many ways of drawing cards.
Yeah.
Literally
the only deck I was thinking about was a tokens deck, right? Maybe Young Pyromancer. Ironically, that's already online, getting the body from it. But you already said enough. Yeah.
It's nice. I will say this about the artwork as well. If you're listening to this through a purely audio medium, it's worthwhile taking a look at the art. This is why representation matters, because you have this skis ball talking over the shoulder of a devil, and I've never felt more represented in a Magic card, being both a skis ball and potentially a demon.
I was gonna be like, which one are you?
Oh, both, baby.
It's like looking in 2 mirrors at the same time.
Yeah. Also, nice coat.
Very nice coat.
All right. How about we even the score a little bit? That's a segue. Now that's a great segue. Does all the lifting itself. X triple blue for an instant. The spell costs triple blue less to cast it if an opponent has drawn 4 or more cards this turn. Draw X cards. I know that first little qualifier line there seems like, well, when is an opponent going to draw 4 or more cards?
Highlander, baby.
Brainstorm, Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Yeah.
Sylvan Library, Ancestral Recall. Like, some of those, if they happen, a little bit worse. But like, this is the kind of card. Maybe I'm just too soft on draw X spells, but this is kind of neat. I could see this card popping up in like more fair Academy decks,
Oh, interesting.
because you could just dump, like if your opponent has one of those going on, you could just dump a whole bunch of mana into it. And as much as I like to think that, oh, I could stroke a genius and target my opponent, it's like, yeah, you're not Paradox, bud. You're not going to do that. You just want to draw a bunch of cards. And so maybe this is worthwhile.
Funny you should mention that because, of course, Blue Sun Zenith. No. Was it Blue Sun? The blue X. This one doesn't allow you to target your opponent. So it doesn't work in the classic like high tide loop of with Blue Sun, you target yourself and then generate a bunch of mana and loop through it and then hopefully redraw Blue Sun to finish them off. Like it's weird because this very classic 3X draw spell has been a traditional combo finisher in those infinite or infinite enough big mana decks. And I don't know if this one quite makes it because it doesn't have that flexibility.
Yeah, I'm not super excited over it. I mean, it feels like the card where if like I'll throw it in a deck and I'll have one time in like 4 tournaments where it's good. And then every other time I'm just like, why didn't I just play like a land or anything else? A planeswalker.
Man, you know what I miss? What was the white version of this that gained you life too?
You mean Heliod's?
No. It was like white, blue, draw X cards, gain X life.
Sphinx's Revelation.
Sphinx's Rev. Remember the Sphinx's Rev meta? I miss the good old. It was a simpler time.
Serge, I won 3 events in a row. I got the hat trick on playing blue-green Sorensen that splashed for Sphinx's Revelation. That is bad. That is not good. I recall being like, oh, it helps the red matchup. And I want to go back in time and slap myself. Like, no, it doesn't.
It worked. It worked at the time.
Yeah, I mean, I did beat red in the finals 3 weeks in a row. So, hey. But maybe I was going a little too deep. What do you think?
That was going to be my segue. Way too deep.
I'm sorry.
Way too deep about our conversation on this card. In Too Deep is an aura for blue. It has split second. It's worth mentioning, In Too Deep is from the Commander deck. So if you're wondering what we're talking about, we also cover Commander cards in our set reviews, especially the ones that we find we're talking about. Split second, if you're not familiar with that mechanic, as long as a spell is on the stack, players can't cast spells or activate abilities that aren't mana abilities. So it's got its own built-in counter protection. Enchant creature, planeswalker, or clue. Enchanted permanent becomes a clue. So it's an artifact. It has 2 and sack it to draw a card and loses all other abilities. So this is kind of cool and a very, very blue card, along the lines of, was Pongify the first effect like this, which was like remove a permanent and swap it out with a 3/3, like the weird blue pseudo removal?
How do we want to talk about Ovinomancer?
Interesting. Okay, so it does go back. Like this is a very niche part of the blue color identity to deal with stuff, and this is kind of cool because this is one of the few ways that blue, short of bouncing and countering, can deal with a planeswalker, and that's really neat.
It's like a weird. Yeah, it's like a weird declaration in stone,
Yep.
But blue, so better. and split second, so better.
So like the weirdest thing about this card is it's outclassed by similar things in almost every other color. But if for some reason you want to play mono blue, you've got an answer to some stuff suddenly, an uncounterable answer to some stuff.
I could see maybe a world where like a blue green deck plays this or something that just does not want to deal with, can't deal with like an Oko.
Yeah.
Like 2 mana deal with Oko. It's all right in my books,
So I get some things to mention here about Split Second. Split Second does not deal with triggered abilities. I think a lot of people, when they first read Split Second, assume that it means that it can't be countered. Abrupt Decay gets around Ward. In Too Deep does not. If you have a way to, if this is maybe going way too deep, what's the blue enchantment that counters a spell if you reveal the top card and has the same one?
Counterbalance.
I was thinking countertop. I couldn't remember the name of the card. That's a triggered ability and it counters it. So it's worth mentioning that this is not a silver bullet that will deal with everything. Split Second, while being powerful, is not uncounterable. They just can't cast counterspell, which is worth mentioning in a format where you can play literally every card, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is really cool.
I'm so excited.
Are you? It definitely has some homes, but like, man, if I thought I couldn't deal with planeswalkers, I'd just play black or red or something.
Oh,
right?
I thought we were talking about the next card. This one I like. I do like this card.
Yeah, segue away, my friend. Segue away.
But it's a little, it might need to find a home and take some time to do so. The next card, Ledger Shredder, it's already moved in. I already have a personalized mug for it. 1 and a blue for a 1/3 Bird Advisor, so it's good. With flying, and whenever a player casts their second spell each turn, Ledger Shredder connives.
Player. It just says player, not you. Any player.
Any player casts their second spell each turn. So connive is you draw a card and then discard a card. And if the discarded card was a non-land card, you put a 1/1 counter on Ledger Shredder. Worth noting, you don't have to discard a non-land. You just loot. But if you looted away a spell, or as opposed to just excess land, it gets a little bigger. So this this is everything I wanted Fairy Vandal to be.
Right?
Which is coincidentally in the set as well as a reprint. But oh my god. So the floor of it being a blue evasive threat in something like blue-green tempo, like Sorensen tempo, is where I'm looking to play this. Or like Blue Moon or a blue tempo deck could honestly.
Blue-red spells, right?
Yeah. Like blue-black. I mean, I just love this card. It just being a 1/3 flyer means that it will be able to like block pretty profitably against some aggro decks, not die to shock. And it does, potentially die to bolt. But if that bolt is the second spell that your opponent is casting, then you get to connive and maybe have it survive.
Well, a very important thing to note about connive, if people aren't familiar with the rulings, is as soon as connive starts, as soon as you loot, they don't get to respond when you discard a non-creature spell. So if you have a bolt in hand and connive has already started, you're like, oh, sorry, it's going to get a +1/+1 counter? Like, no. It's too late at that point.
And like, this is sounds a little pipe dream, but like we have so many free spells now. Theoretically, I could cast 2 spells on my turn and this connives, and my opponent could cast 2 spells on my turn and this would connive as well. And then we go to their turn and they cast 2 spells at connives and I cast 2 spells at connives. A player just has to cast their second spell each turn.
You could box cast it on this turn. Oh, wait, no. But if that works, the Ledger's Ledger can't be the second spell because that would be the casting of the second spell.
But what if I were, say, casting counter spells and get into a counter war as my bird gets bigger? Potentially a counter war over protecting my bird.
This gets even funnier in the presence of werewolves, where they're going to be strategically trying to double spell as well. I can't believe this is a 2-drop. That's the thing that just sets this over the edge.
It's a 2-mana with only 1 blue pip and 3 toughness and flying. Like, it's hard to kill. If they do catch me and kill it, okay, my bad. I guess I should have played this on 3 where I go like Ledger Shredder and then Serum Visions immediately afterwards. But like, all this needs to do is hit 2/4. Like a permanent 2/4 flyer is so annoying. It already it passes the Vendilion Clique test. It kills off opposition agents.
The fact that this isn't a 3/1, right? Like how many flyers does this profitably just hose in our game?
Oh, it blocks Thalia. Like 1/3 is such an annoying stat line. Yeah, I love this card. Love it a lot.
This might be one of the spicier cards in the set, just in terms of impact on the format.
And it's just a stupid like corrupt bird lawyer. Like
no evidence, no crime. Wow.
Yeah, it's so good. Oh yeah.
All right. Next up, let's talk about the Reservoir Kraken. This is a 4-mana 6/6 Kraken for 2 blue. It has Trample and Ward 2. And at the beginning of each combat, if Reservoir Kraken is untapped, any opponent may tap an untapped creature they control. If they do, tap the Kraken and create a 1/1 blue fish creature token with this creature can't be blocked. This is a cool card. I like this. I don't know if it's good or not, because obviously it has a pretty real downside. But this follows a long tradition of typically black cards. Again, like feels like a couple of blue cards we're getting in here should have been in black based on past thing. But like 4 mana 6/6s with a downside, aka, Demon Tribal. And in the right matchup, you just have a 4 mana 6/6 that's hard to deal with, which is kind of beautiful. There's a bunch of decks that don't run a tremendous amount of creatures, or if they do, if you're playing like blue-red spells and you have the ability to clear the board, you could do some work with this. That being said, it is very easy to shut down, but I like it enough that I'm willing to try it in some decks to see what happens.
Yeah, it's got enough going. And again, this sounds like a joke because it's kind of the joke that stuck with like Stormcrow, but like cards are genuinely made better if you can pitch them to Force of Will.
Yeah.
Or if you can play
Yeah.
them in a deck with Force of Will and Brainstorm and maybe Time Walk. Like, yeah, I'm with you. This could kill someone.
Especially if it comes down on turn 3, right? The trample's kind of weird because, like, if they have a blocker, why aren't they just tapping it? Right?
Yeah. The fish, like unblockable creatures, will kill them. I think maybe like blue green opposition.
Honestly, is what I was thinking. Blue green, anything that has equipment or bodies like opposition. If you just tap down all their creatures, they can't tap down your creature, right?
Yeah. There was a deck in standard a while ago that was like mono green, stompy, big things. But then it splashed blue to protect its creatures with like spell pierce or like hexproof cards. And like maybe there's room in this format for just blue green giant idiots. And this would slide perfectly in.
Yeah,
right?
you're not wrong.
Yeah. I'm not wrong, but I am in trouble. So if you don't mind, Serge, I'd like to slip out the back real quick. Is that okay? This segue was not great, but let me talk to you about this card that I think is. It's 1 blue. It's an instant. You put a 1/1 counter on target creature. It phases out. Yet again, I'm here to talk about Phyrexian Dreadnought.
Oh, I was wondering why you were so excited about this card.
So I am a huge fan, and people in the show, listeners of the show, are probably familiar with this card, Shadow Rift, which is a 1 blue instant that gives a creature, target creature gets shadow and you draw a card. And I love that card in like blue-green tempo and blue-X like blitzy kind of decks, because you could target one of your creatures to make it big or to make it unblockable, or you could target their relevant blocker and swing it with a bunch of things. And so Slip of the Back can kind of do this. It has a couple things. One, it can do that kind of like, oh, your best blocker's gone. Vroom. Two, it can kind of do like a Tameo safekeeping, blossoming defense. Like, I'm going to protect my creature and make it bigger when it comes back. Although it doesn't, you might not get the same attack, or doing it in combat's a little bit of a oopsie doopsie. But this also has added protection against like Toxic Deluge or Terminus or any kind of, board wipe effect that pops up. Edicts as well, it's pretty good against. It pitches to forces, which is relevant for this kind of deck, or in typically these blue X decks are mostly blue with a little bit of the supporting color. And then, yeah, I'm obsessed with Phyrexian Dreadnought and like targeting Uro with the sacrifice on the stack.
Yeah, okay, that's really cool. That's really cool. You sold me.
I don't think this is like a huge game changer, but just redundancy on 1 mana phase out a thing, which we don't really have, is pretty big.
All right, let's move on to black cards now. The first one we're going to talk about is called Body Launderer. This is a 4 mana 3/3 Ogre Rogue for 2 black, has Death Touch, and says whenever another non-token creature you control dies, connive, and when Body Launderer dies, return another target non-rogue creature card with equal or lesser power from your graveyard to the battlefield. God, I love this card. I read this card and I just want to build a new recurring nightmare. Like, I think a lot of people, when they do a recurring nightmare reanimator deck, try and make it like too big. They try and make like big splashy threats. But if you go for a lower to the ground, impactful, cost efficient ETB, sort of like attrition grind mid range deck, that deck can slap and just provide so much redundancy and so much value. And Body Launderer, it's almost like a karmic guide in its ability to create an engine by itself, especially in a deck that's leveraged to take advantage of that, like Body Launderer with Pod, Body Launderer with Recurring Nightmare. There's so much upside. And again, if you have a sack outlet, if you're doing something with it, your ability to connive to put more targets into your graveyard to reanimate or make this creature more of a threat and grow it to get more value out of the engine. Wow, this card's powerful.
Yeah. Safi Eric's daughter.
Yeah, once again.
That's all I'm going to mention. Actually, I'll mention one more thing because I agree with you on the Rexer kind of line. As someone that got my ass kicked by that deck that was just looping like Shriekmaw and like Rex Sages, I was just like, oh my God, I can't do anything. I want to point out, with that in mind, Solitude, Fury, Endurance, and Grief. These are all creatures that put themselves in the graveyard that are pretty strong with power equal to or less than 3. In fact, it is 3. That's kind of hot. Yeah, very good. Very good. Oh, God. On to something that is not good. I'm kind of spoiling my opinion. Shadow of Mortality.
15 mana, how bad could it be?
Yeah. I mean, hey, you know, it's another 15 mana card. Emrakul. Are you really saying Emrakul is bad? It's 13 black for a 7/7. If your life total is less than your starting life total, this spell costs X less to cast, where X is the difference. So, for instance, if I were at 10, this spell would cost 10 less to cast, meaning I would only have to pay 5 for a 7/7. Oh my God. Yeah, this card's not good.
Really like Death Shadow, Wheeler.
Oh, they love it. They love it to bits. I love it to bits too. But you know what you could do? If you want to pay 2 mana and get a 7/7, how about you cast Exhume and bring back Gristlebrand?
I thought you were going to play like, what was the old hunted, whatever? There's like a green for a 7/7. Yeah, there you go.
I mean, you could also just play like Gurmag Angler or Murktide Regent. Those are good Magic cards too. Tarmogoyf is pretty good. And those cards don't require you to be dead. Like, you don't have to, you know, be dead on board or anything like that. I will say there is a deck that and maybe this is too memes, and I mean, it's certainly memes and Moxen, which is where I'd like to play it. I'm a sucker for like the deal damage equal to the CMC of the top card of your deck spells.
Yeah.
And we do have a lot of them now at like, well, enough of them at like 3 mana or less. And Vampiric Tutor and Imperial Seal have both had their points reduced. And so, like, I mean, they're 1 and 2, but like, you know, I'm just saying, if you Vampiric Tutor and then like Erratic Explosion your opponent for 15, that'd be pretty cool, huh?
I can't go down this rabbit hole. Yes. Yeah. God, I want to talk about that, but let's move on though. Let's move on. We have a lot of cards to cover. But yes, Wheeler, I'm with you and I'm writing this down for a future plan. All right, next up we have Tenacious Underdog. This is a 2 mana 3/2 human warrior for 1 and a black, or you can blitz it for 2 black and pay 2 life. Now we haven't talked about blitz yet. It reads, if you cast the spell for its blitz cost, it gains haste, and when this creature dies, draw a card, sack it at the beginning of the next end step, which is already really cool. And then it also has the line of text, you may cast Tenacious Underdog from your graveyard using its blitz ability. What a cool card. The fact that it's a human warrior and not a zombie is kind of neat. And I guess the idea here is that, you know, maybe the flavor is that underground fighting keeps happening and the human just replaces itself. You know, it's not necessary. This doesn't represent a person. It represents more of an ideal. But I digress. This card is good. Go ahead. Sorry, Willer.
You don't mean, I always had it as like, he gets knocked down, but he gets up again.
Oh, you're never going to keep me down. The old Chumbawamba philosophy.
Yeah. He gets punched in the jaw and then gets back up.
That works. I mean, that works too. I mean, I think of the graveyard as being a little bit more dead than incapacitated, but fair.
Yeah, that's fair.
This is good. It's a little bit expensive, but the fact that it draws you a card every time you activate it, I could see this easily having a home in something like Alex's Black Mold deck. It has a very good body in the early game, and it gives you some reach in the late game for its ability to cast from the graveyard when you might be running out of gas. And the fact that it also draws you a card and doesn't get exiled, you can do this over and over. unlike something like Exhume, where you do it once and you remove it, it just goes back to your graveyard to be to be activated again the next time. It's
You
very
said this
cool.
has a good body in the early game. Buddy, have you looked at the art? That's a good body morning, noon, and night. Woo! God damn. Yeah, card slaps, or I guess punches. On to red, which also does a lot of punching.
And or slapping.
Yep. And how about we'll, you know what? People complain about this podcast all the time. They say, not enough set reviews, and the segues are bad. Well, how about we call in a professional to help us fix that? 2 in a red, it's an instant. Players can't gain life this turn. Damage can't be prevented this turn. Call in the professional, deals 3 damage to any target. So it's a skull crack, but it costs 1 more mana, and it can target creatures. And like red is being off Skullcrack, you just don't care. You do, like, if your spell, I mean, on and off, I should say. I don't want to say every red player isn't playing Skullcrack, but like, if a spell can't kill a creature, it's, always kind of iffy, because red decks get so much value from just turning creatures sideways now, right? And like, if your Skullcrack can't get your Ragavan through, then why would you play it? But this is 3 mana. And so I feel like this card is just like 2 years too late,
Yeah. There's that weird math you used to have to do as a red player, which is how much damage do I expect to get out of each cost of mana? And even like 5 years ago, at 3 mana, you're hoping to get at least 4 damage.
But like, God, it's genuinely just, I mean, I don't know why I'm rooting for the red decks, but it genuinely, if this card showed up 2 years ago, like if this was in Guilds of Ravnica, like people would be losing their minds.
Well, they'd be clapping. And somebody in the comment, let's get ahead of the comments right now. They're going to say, but it kills True Name because of the ability to, yes, you are right.
I'm not trying to kill the True Name. I'm trying to kill the controller of True Name.
Yeah.
Or the GT.
Yeah. Next up, we have Devilish Valet. This is a 3 mana 1/3 Devil Warrior for 2 in a red. It has trample and haste. And whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, double Devilish Valet's power until end of turn. I think this card is really cool. I think this card's really cool and really fun, and could potentially do some very dumb things in like Boros tokens or Naya tokens or something like that. The fact that it has trample built in makes it very, very, very spicy.
I like it for medium red because of, and then Ancient Tomb mana is what I was hoping you to. Yeah, but yeah.
I thought you were gonna do like a ba 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 or something like that.
Oh no! I mean, you could do a ba 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 ba, which is like the sound of your body being riddled by bullets. Which in this case, the bullets are the tokens that medium red makes, which is a lot. Like, so many of the threats in medium red that are really scary off that Ancient Tomb mana, just like Goblin Rabblemaster, Legion Loyalist, they make tokens. So this could get out of hand pretty quickly.
You don't even need to go ham with this card, right? Like, you don't need to make 5 tokens in a turn. Swinging for 4 is already remarkable.
Mm-hmm. God forbid it has like a Ember Cleave attached to it.
Right?
Yeah. And now on to this set's best boy, Gold Hound. It's 1 red for a 1/1 treasure dog. It's an artifact creature. And I'm about to say 3 different abilities on this 1 mana 1/1 common in red. First strike, menace, and you can crack it to add a mana of any color. Huh?
2022.
Yeah, sure is. Jeez, like,
I'm surprised it's not in green.
yeah, exactly. Well, it can add green. First strike plus menace is really good.
Yeah.
That's a gross combination.
That's
God forbid
a good
you
dog.
pump it. Yeah, that's a really good dog. Like, Serge, have you thought about giving this dog a cranial plating? They can't beat it. Like, it's impossible to block. Give this dog a GT. Ooh, first strike in GT. Grafted war gear.
Oh, I have a bad joke you'll appreciate. Give this dog a bone. Splitter.
Oh, hey. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in to North 100. We'll catch you next week.
All right. Next up, Jaxus, the Troublemaker. This is a 4 mana 2/3 legendary human warrior for 3 in a red. Red, tap, discard a card. Create a token that's a copy of another target creature you control. It gains haste, and when this creature dies, draw a card. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. Activate only as a sorcery, so you can't do it as a blocker. And you can blitz with it, so you can bring it out for 1 and a red. So for 3 mana. This is a really cool ability, and I don't know if it has a home.
I will try this card in like a Kiki pod deck.
Yeah, I guess. Is there a way to does it Kiki Pot? The discard a card is so tough.
I don't intend on going infinite with it. Like maybe Kiki Pod is a bit too leading into like I only want a combo with this. But like this card is very good, you know.
It's very expensive though.
It's expensive, but also very explosive, you know. Like I could see a deck with Mana Dorks getting this out quickly. And I could see a deck with Mana Dorks also having, you know, being in a position where they're like, if I have enough mana, I can win the game. And so Blitz makes it so much easier to get to that. Yeah, I might regret saying this, but I think I'm going to try this in Red Green Hoof.
Fascinating.
It's also a 4-drop. Like it is red, which, you know,
yeah. But like red green, like Hoof can splash any color it wants.
Yes.
Right? And like red green Hoof is OG.
Yeah, my trade-off here is that it's mono red, so you can't natural order it, which is always a little awkward. But Hoof will always take more 4-drops because then you can just Eldritch Evolution into prime time, like a thing that was previously not really doable.
There's definitely a time in like earlier versions of Kiki decks where you'd absolutely you'd use Kiki Jiki just for value. You know, you'd have like a sad robot or something into play. You'd use it to draw a card. So it does help if your creatures have ETBs. And the fact that if it has an ETB and it has the blitz ability, so you draw a card when it dies, like that's a pretty powerful engine.
Mm-hmm.
I just think about a 4-mana 2/3 that does nothing when it resolves. That's my concern with this particular card.
And I think that's a valid concern. I think that's maybe this actually has a home in like a boat brew deck, like a white-red double Imperial Recruiter or Imperial Recruiter the Guard, and you play some ETB abilities and
I mean,
all that.
Obviously using the ability on a recruiter, you get the tutor and you draw a card is dumb, right?
That's pretty gross. Gross.
Let's talk. Wait, you're up next. I introduced that one. My apologies.
How dare you? I'm going to punch you in the face repeatedly. Haha, just kidding. You're damn right this is on the clock. Professional Face Breaker. This is a magic card. It's 2 and a red for a 2/3 human warrior with menace, and whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, create a treasure token. And then sack a treasure, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. Huh.
Right? Every line is good. I was waiting for the other, what is it the saying? The other foot to drop, the other shoe to drop when this card is actually bad or there's like a bad line of text on it.
This card was so cemented in my mind as being like really strong and just gets out of hand that I think at the PPR, I hit with 2 creatures and then made 2 treasure tokens before it was caught. And it was like, oh, yeah, my bad. Sorry. I just looked at this card and was like, huh? Because like, it doesn't matter if this hits. If you have a Llanowar Elf or tokens or whatever, you get free treasure, which is pretty good. But getting this 2 hit is pretty easy because it has menace. And even if they double block this card, you're a deck with red, so you probably have removal. So double blocking this is difficult. Getting a treasure with this in play is super easy. And then it lets you do the classic thing of like, well, I'm ramping, but I'm ramping into nothing. Well, now you get to ramp into cards.
That last ability is unbelievable.
Yeah, and play, like you can play lands off this. Oh my, wait, hold on. What? Oh no, oh God, Serge. I just had I don't want to call it a brain blast. It's embarrassing, but I had a brain blast. This card plus Tireless Provisioner.
Right? I mean, is the old Rutstein deck that we've been thinking about for a while now also have red? Is it 4-color, no white?
I kind of like that. I kind of like that a lot.
I need to make this deck. This is the tokens matter deck chat of chat. We're not streaming it. Dear listener.
No. I mean, I think of them as chat, just very slow, unresponsive chat.
Woo!
Yeah, like okay, Gladiator isn't a great example, but from 100 card singleton to another, honestly, a lot of the engine cards, Tireless Provisioner, Old Rutstein, even like Corvold, which I think is a criminally underplayed card in Canlander. It's a little niche, but you know, the Jund Dragon that draws you a million cards and whatnot. Like, these cards are all legal in both formats, and just making treasure tokens and having like Mayhem Devil sacking stuff and making extra artifacts, like it's just too powerful to not find a home. And it's easy to cast. It's just a single red. Yeah. Card's not going to only break faces.
This card's going to open up a lot of really cool stuff. All right. Next up, Strangle. This is another common. Talking about quite a few this set review, which is always cool. For 1 red pip, deal 3 damage to target creature or player. Or planeswalker. Planeswalker. Kind of wish this did 4 damage.
Classic Magic player.
Right?
I mean, I unfortunately, I agree with you.
Yeah.
But like, hitting a planeswalker is a nice little flexibility, you know?
Yeah.
Like people play Frostbite.
So like let's go down the whole list. You got Bolt, you got Chain Lightning. And then you have to ask yourself, do you want to play a 2-mana instant with 3 damage anywhere, you know, or a 1-mana sorcery with 3 damage to creature or planeswalker? And when we play Flame Slash, when we play these other cards that are even more restrictive that only hit creatures, it's because 4 is that really important threshold. You know, you got to ask yourself, how large is Courser of Krufix's booty?
Yeah. It's like Unholy Heat is just Swords to Plowshares that hits planeswalkers.
Yeah.
Which is, it sounds like I'm just talking out my ass, but no, it like, it will kill everything. But this, like, sorcery speed and 3 damage only, it's just like, yeah, it can hit a planeswalker, but also like Flame Slash killing Courser of Krufix, killing like a Knight of the Reliquary. It just feels good.
I can see people playing Strangle. I think it's a little, doesn't quite do enough for me personally.
Yeah, no, I feel that. And you're going to feel this because I've hit 5 mana and I'm casting Urabrask Heretic Praetor. 3 red for a 4/4 legendary creature. It's a Phyrexian Praetor. It's got haste. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. And then at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, the next time they would draw a card this turn, instead exile the top card of their library. They may play it this turn. I mean, it's a mythic that draws you extra cards that has haste. It's like, it's the kind of card that I want to say you should play it, but to me, it feels a little too Elspeth, you know? If that makes sense. Like,
yep.
Goldspan Dragon, Glorybringer, like, God forbid, Terror of the Peaks or whatever. And if I'm playing, that's just mono red. If I'm playing like red-green, like you got Verdurous Gearhulk, you have a green card that's coming up later in the day. The stream. No, not stream.
In like 5 minutes, Wheeler.
Oh my God, Serge, take it. How do you feel about this card? Save me.
I think this is the type of card that it's pick your poison. You know, once your deck, if a deck is tuned enough, your top end, you can play any number of cards that you just listed that are probably equally good. And I guess the question you want to ask yourself is, are you in a meta where punishing their draw and getting a bit of card advantage is going to help you rather than killing them slightly faster or not? Like, this card is totally fine. I think this card passes the test. There are better threats. There are worse threats. This is going to kill me, and I might play it or I might not play it. It is, you know what this is? This is a perfectly passable top-end threat. I'm not excited about it, but I will die to it.
Yeah. I think I'm just too married to Thundermaw Hellkite, you know?
Yeah, that's fair. You got your dragon bias, and that's okay. Everybody's got their something, my friend. All right, let's move on to green cards, and let's open with the Gala Greeter. This is a 2-mana 1/1 elf druid. What a combination of creature types, though. For 1 and a green, has alliance. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, choose one that hasn't been chosen this turn. Put a +1/+1 counter onto it. Create a tapped treasure token or gain 2 life. This is quite strong. It's
Yeah.
just this is just as good as you think it is. It's so good they had to restrict it that it could only work 3 times per turn. But every turn, growing it by 1, getting a treasure token for next turn, and gaining 2 life, this is very good.
Yeah. And the tap treasures too, right? Like it's just like, okay. So you can only do this 3 times on only one, and the third time is basically just here's your, ribbon or whatever.
Yeah.
And then also we have to make it so the treasure comes into play tapped so that you can't basically guarantee to always get a counter on it and develop your board further this turn.
Yeah.
This card, this is the kind of card where I'm going to be like, well, my opponent played Gala Greeters. Can I kill it? No. Okay, I lose. Like, great. I'm dead.
They obviously nerfed it at least twice, and it's still that good.
Yeah, it's a good card. I look forward to dying to it and playing it. Speaking of, this is a common. It's Jewel Thief. I mean, Gold Hound was, whatever. But this one, 2 and a green for a 3/3 Vigilance Trample Cat Rogue. And when it comes into play, you make a treasure. So it's a 3-mana 3/3 Vigilance Trample that when you come to play, you make a treasure. I think that all memes aside, this card's going to go through a very interesting like roller coaster ride where it's getting memed on a lot. And so people are going to be like, it's so good, which it is. And then people are going to be like, I don't know. It's just a 3/3 for 3, like whatever, which technically it is. But then they're going to realize, wait a minute, elf into 5-drop. Like, that's so like, okay. So Llanowar Tribe, right? The triple green 3/3 that taps to add 3 green, the 3 Llanowar elves stapled together. Like that card hits for 3. 3 is a good amount to attack for, but it so rarely gets to attack because it's too busy trying to cast very expensive spells.
You can't see me. I'm nodding with you right now.
Yeah. But you know how many expensive spells or 5-drops you realistically need to win the game? Just 1.
Yeah. That's why they're 5-drops, right?
And then I'm just tell me if this is too greedy of a line, because I don't think it is. Turn 1, Noble Hierarch. Turn 2, Jewel Thief. Turn 3, I don't know, dude, any 5-drop. Yeah. And then attack for 4 Trample Vigilance. Like,
I don't know if you remember when Solemn Simulacrum was in Standard, when the Sad Robot was in Standard.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Every deck played it. Blue-Black Control played it. Hoof played it, because Hoof was in Standard at that time as well. And the ability of a card to accelerate you, to skip a spot on a mana curve, is so big. Because what Sad Robot lets you do is let you go from 4 to 6.
Yeah.
It's hard to communicate how impactful that is. Like, what a big deal it is. And that's why elves are played, right? You can think about the power of Mox, and you can think about the stuff like that. You don't really think about a ramp spell and its ability to put you ahead a whole turn. But Solemn is a 2/2. And it fundamentally warped Magic for a while. This is a 3/3 with 2 keyword abilities. This is absurd.
Yeah, it's like recontextualizing this card as well to be like Burning Tree Emissary.
Yep.
2-mana 2/2 comes into play, add a red or a green. The joke is that card's like Frogmite, right? It's effectively just a free 2/2.
Yeah.
And so you're not going to be able to get 2 mana or, exactly another copy of Jewel Thief for free. But like playing this on turn 2 and then immediately playing another 1-drop or playing a hand attack spell or playing, like a bolt or a flame slash or
having
something.
Spell Pierce mana up suddenly.
Yeah.
Right?
This is very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
Next up, Titan of Industry. 7 mana, 7/7 elemental with reach and trample For 4 green, green, green. When it enters the battlefield, choose 2. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. Target player gains 5. Create a 4/4 rhino creature, or put a shield counter on a creature that you control. Like, so it's really weird, and I feel that we flip-flop back and forth, and there, I guarantee you, dear listener, that there is subtlety to this when we say that, man, 4 mana is a lot of mana, that's too expensive, when I just talked about Jaxus. 7 mana in the right deck is very easily castable or very easily reanimatable. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this is an achievable threat that does so much.
Yeah, I think this like scale is important, where like Jaxus, you need additional pieces to really make it tick, and itself is kind of vulnerable. And so that makes the 4 man a little like suspect for some decks, right? But when this comes into play, it's just like, hey, you don't have to think. You could get hit in the head with a mallet and still be able to understand, like, maybe I should make this a 7/7 reach trample with a shield counter and also get a 4/4.
Right?
Like, maybe I should get a 4/4 and gain 5 life against this red deck. Like, this is such a good natural order, like, card to just always have a relevant answer, like, there's always something that this will be able to hit if you need something that isn't hoof or prime time.
I was gonna ask, this is clearly going in hoof, right?
Yeah, I'll play this in hoof, and I'll play it in reanimator. I like it as a reanimator threat. It's just flexible and it's big.
Yes, it is.
It's so
The
big.
fact that it also answers stuff is remarkable, because oftentimes, unless you're playing, what's that idiot that turns things into 3/3s?
Oh, nasty Terasti.
Yeah,
Terastodon
Terastodon is one, and then there's another one that has Wither that like destroys a permanent. Like, very few of your reanimation targets can also be defensive, and like the modal nature of this card, and the fact that you get 2. Oh.
Yeah, great. Why does it have reach? I mean, I know it has reach because
it's a building.
It's literally a building, yeah. But,
Hmm.
Okay, I might break some North 100 ground with this, if you don't mind, because here's the first Planeswalker with only 1 ability. It's Vivian on the Hunt. 4 green green for a legendary Planeswalker. Vivian comes into play with 4 loyalty. I'm going to read the 2 abilities you don't really need to care about. Okay? So -1, you make a 4/4 Rhino. Not that bad. +1, mill 5 cards and then put any number of creature cards milled this way into your hand. Also, like, not that bad. +2, you may sacrifice a creature. And if you do, search your library for a creature with mana value equal to 1 plus the sack creature's mana value and put it into the battlefield. So it's a birthing pod activation. This is a Planeswalker with a birthing pod activation. Serge, may I?
Oh, take it away, my friend.
Great. So pretend I have a Wood Elves in play.
Yeah.
Or a Jewel Thief. I have a 3 mana creature in play.
Yeah.
And I get to play this Vivian on the Hunt. I then uptick Vivian, find a Felidar Guardian, which is a 1/4 that is going to blink the Vivian, and it comes immediately back into play. So I can activate it again. And I sack the Felidar Guardian, and I find Karmic Guide, a 5 mana creature that reanimates the Felidar Guardian, to then blink Vivian. And then I activate the Vivian again, sacking the Felidar Guardian, finding Kiki Jiki. Kiki Jiki then makes a copy of Karmic Guide, which brings back Felidar Guardian to blink Kiki Jiki and make infinite tokens and win the game. And I did this with any 3-drop and Vivian on the Hunt.
Yeah, and didn't you have any other mana open, right? That's the downside of Pod.
No, I mean, Pod is limited by mana and life, and even then it doesn't matter that much. And this is just limited by haha. Like,
I've resolved it. Goodbye.
Oh my God. And like, that's the most straightforward, easy to follow line that is, on a podcast, especially. Hopefully people can go, I've died to this. I get it. God forbid we dive into the Sandy B lines, the Spellseeker, like infinite turn combo lines. Like, holy crap. This card is so good. And it's just for that one ability. Like the other ones are fine, but like, oh, why?
Yep. Get yours today. All right, let me take us home on green here. Workshop War Chief is a 5-mana 5/3 Rhino Warrior for 3 green, has trample, but wait, there's more. When it enters the battlefield, gain 3 life. When it dies, create a 4/4 green Rhino Warrior creature token, and you can blitz it for 4 green.
These green cards, man.
These green cards, man! How many siege rhinos do we need?
You know, I would imagine by this year, 2020, we would have had play this magic card.
Yeah, just like, I don't know. Sometimes people in the comments get frustrated because we like don't get in too deep on a card when it's obviously very good. This is just a better version of Thragtusk, which is already a staple. It's a top end threat in green decks. It's a blink threat. It's a recurring nightmare threat. It's a very good threat. And they just took most of the abilities of that creature and made it better. Like the blitz may seem like an additional ability. I think it's possibly the best part because now you have a hasty ability that can potentially end the game or just tremendously impact a very close and tight race. Because Thragtusk was already terrifying. It didn't even have trample. Like Thragtusk was just a 5/3.
Sorry to cut you off.
No, go for it.
I think I called this blitz the Green Cruel Ultimatum.
Yeah, God, that's so good.
Yeah, you're up life, they're down 5, you draw a card, and you have a 4/4. And if they blocked because they don't want to die to your Rhino, they're down a creature. It's just like, oh my God.
Yeah. Because like the card was already really, really good. And the blitz, God, the blitz makes it even more busted. Let's move on to artifacts.
Okay. Finally. Getaway Car.
Beep beep.
This is okay. It's a 3-mana artifact. It's a vehicle. It has haste. Whenever Getaway Car attacks or blocks, return up to 1 target creature that crewed it this turn to its owner's hand. It has crew 1, and it's a 4/3. I want to play this, and I don't entirely know if it's correct.
Yeah, I'm with you all the way there. Right?
I could return Stoneforge after crewing it. I could play it off Workshop.
This feels like ninjutsu with no element of surprise.
Yep.
Right? Like all the upsides that we've talked about the best ninja cards, except they see it coming.
Yeah. I mean, Mishra's Workshop has never been one for subtlety. You know? Juggernaut is not really subtle. And it's, yeah, I think I will give it a shot in a bigger like BattleBot style deck, because there are cheap creatures that you can play to crew and return, like, you know, returning a Trinkamage or whatever, returning a Frogmite that you get to cast for free.
I was going to say the free ones is probably the best way to go there, yeah.
Or like playing a little Walking Ballista early on curve so you have a body, and then crewing it and getting to play a bigger one later. Like, yeah, this card's good enough that I'm willing to give it a shot, but I wouldn't be shocked if it got cut in like, 6 months or whatever.
Next up, we have Unlicensed Hearth. This is a 2-mana vehicle, Star. Tap, exile up to 2 cards from a single graveyard. Unlicensed Hearth power and toughness are equal to the number of cards exiled with it, and crew for 2. Now, I know in Magic Twitter, specifically around Commander Discourse, this card made a huge splash.
Mm-hmm.
And I like this a lot, and I think it has the potential to be both very powerful and hilariously misplayed, because it's not an aggressive card. This is not a looter scooter. You don't play this down on curve. It's like, what if your Nile Spellbomb had the ability to kill your opponent? Like, this might be a control card.
Wait, hold on. You're asking the wrong guy about whether or not Nile Spellbomb can kill someone.
Oh, right. Sorry, Mr. Eggs Wheeler over there. Yeah, I think you need to take it pretty slow with this card.
Yeah.
This might be a prison card as well, as you slowly drain your opponent's resources, as you constrict like a boa and squeeze everything out, and then eventually your hearth gets in there for 6. You don't have to be too big, and I
Yeah.
think that's the worry with this card is that you'll either attack too early and not know when to tax your opponent's graveyard with it, or try and get too big with it when you could just be killing them.
The way I've looked at this card is, this might be a little rude. What if Myth Realized was playable?
Oh no, poor Myth Realized. Man, I know exactly. We have to talk about what that card is.
1-mana enchantment for a white. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you put a lore counter on it. Then you can pay 2 and a white to put a lore counter on it. And it has an activated ability of pay 1 white. It becomes a creature, a monk avatar, in addition to its other types, and gains this creature's power and toughness are each equal to the number of lore counters on it. This only lasts this turn. So theoretically, you play it out. You progress through this game by casting non-creature spells. It gets bigger. You mana sink into it. And then when you're finally ready, you pay a white and it becomes a creature, and you crash in and get it killed with Fatal Push.
You know who's absolutely killed me with this before?
Jer?
I was going to say Chris Sutherland.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Like, I have died to this card, and I have tried to make this work in Enchantress as a win condition. I fell in love with this card so hard when it first came out.
Pick your slow roll blue player. Like, yeah, they've tried to kill you with it. But the card is nice. Like, there's this weird spot where Canlander control decks, I feel like they wish they could play Relic or Progenitus, you know?
That's exactly what I mean, right? Like Relic or Nihil Spellbomb, these effects that you want to play because they are powerful, and you want to take your opponent's graveyard away from them, but they don't do anything.
Yeah, I like this card. I think that I think I'm with you, is that it does enough of the like, wow, this is annoying, while also just having the added benefit of like, maybe, early on it kills a planeswalker by crewing like a pyromancer or a snapcaster mage or whatever. And then if it gets blown up, cool. It, did something. It's been eating away at their graveyard, a pretty valuable resource. And sometimes it will attack for like 8, which is enough.
Yeah. God, this is a good blocker. This is such a great defensive card because they can never attack into it. And if they don't attack into it, you eat their graveyard end of turn.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a similar play pattern to Deathrite.
Yes. Yeah. Just a heads up, we're not comparing this to Deathrite, but it will do similar-ish things in that alley.
All right, take us home, my friend.
Well, it's the cycle of cards that people were waiting for. And honestly, the set could just be these 5 cards and nothing else, and I'd be happy. It's the cycle of triomes, allied colored or wedge colored triomes. You have Jetmir's Garden, Rafine's Tower, Spara's Headquarters, Xander's Lounge, and Ziatora's Proving Ground. We'll talk about Jetmir's Garden first because, well, Scapeshift players deserve a win. So the entire cycle, they're lands, they come into play tapped, and they have the basic land types of the different families. So for instance, Jetmir's Garden is mountain, forest, plains. And then they also have cycling for 3 generic. These are the triomes, but for, the other colors. These are so good.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Triomes are here to stay. They're some of the best lands. The mana in Canlander decks has never been better. And this cycle is much better than the other ones because now your Esper deck or your Grixis deck has a tri-land for your Hymn to Torak, your Counterspell, and your Mystic Sanctuary. Or your Scapeshift deck has more mountains. Like, it's more things to gush. Like, it's so good. These are so good. Yeah.
All right, friends, that is going to do it for part 1 of our set review. So reminder, in this episode, we covered everything but gold cards. And in part 2, we'll be covering gold cards. Now, with any other episode, a reminder that if there's any cards that you want us to talk about that you're just curious about, or, if you want to tell us your favorite horse, like Wheeler asked earlier, let us know in the comments down below. We do really enjoy reading through them, even if you don't believe us. I assure you we do. A reminder that North 100 is brought to you by you with your support over at the Patreon, over at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. Thank you so much for listening. I've been Serge, joined by the wonderful Wheeler, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.